Hello everyone, this is Mike Lindell, the CEO of MyPillow. As you all know, I have been attacked the last month relentlessly on social media, by newspapers, by TV shows, by you name it, I've been attacked. And myself, not just myself, but my company. The boycotts that are going on, box stores are dropping me, social media, they cancel my Twitter. Today they cancel MyPillow's Twitter account, my company's Twitter account. Well, before I was going to get erased completely, we put together this show. And what you're going to see today is what they don't want you to see, why they're trying to erase me. And what I've told everyone out there is, you know what? I've seen evidence. I've been trying since November 4th to prove, to show what's out there. Why are these deviations that happened on election night? None of it made any sense. So I dove all in with everything I had, resources. Anytime I heard something that maybe was relevant, I went and said, looked into it, did my own due diligence, had even my own investigations. Well, on one day, I think it was like January 9th, all of a sudden, they brought me a piece of evidence that's 100% proved. It's like a print of inside the machine of the timestamp that showed other countries attacking us, hacking into our election through these machines, and it shows the votes flipped. And I'm going, wow, I got to get this out there. And from that point on, I started putting it out there, and that's when they just started attacking me. Well, they obviously are hiding something, and tonight you're going to see what they're hiding. You're going to see on this show, we're going to have cyber forensic experts. We're going to have 100%, you're going to see all this evidence that by the time you're done seeing it, you're going to go, wow, 100% it proves exactly what happened, that these machines were used to steal our election by other countries, including China. But I do want to tell you, before we get into all that, I want to tell you what I consider, why I'm so happy today about two miracles that happened these last couple months. The first miracle was on election night. And on election night at 11:15 at night, the algorithms of these machines basically broke. And this will be explained during this show. But they broke. What that means is Donald Trump got so many more millions of votes that they didn't expect that they're going to have to go recalibrate, right? So that's why all these states shut down. All of a sudden, they all shut down. And we're all going, what? That's weird. This has never happened in any other election. And then we're going, okay. Then as the days went on, going, what? Another week that it takes, like Arizona to count 1% of their vote. And you see these big spikes like in Michigan and all these big, votes that were poured in. Nobody understood it, right? We're like living in this kind of twilight zone during that time. Well, that is one miracle there, because think if that wouldn't have happened. Think if they would have estimated right, and what would have happened is it would have been just like a normal election at 3 a.m. They would have said, Biden won, he won by a little bit, and we would have said, better luck next time. But because he got so many votes, it broke that and set off this series of events of these deviations. If that wouldn't have happened, we would have never been here talking about biggest attack in history, the biggest cyber attack ever. And this is, the American dream would be gone forever because we would have never known. And it would just, using machines, it would have took us over forever. Here comes the second miracle. And with this one, I got to show you here on the chart. I'm going to go through these, and I'm going to tell you why this is a miracle. Okay, what we're going to do here, we're going to go state by state, and we're going to show you what else happened. So here's Arizona. Okay, the margin of victory was 10,000 votes that they say Biden won. Now, if we look at this, let's go down the chart here. Mail-in ballots require an adjudication, almost 300,000. What these mean are these are votes that they put through, and you're going to learn that. You're going to learn all about that during this show too, what adjudication, how that works. But let's just go to the next one. Illegal aliens voting. 36,400 illegal aliens voted. You see that? He only lost by 10,000. Boy, of course they can't vote. Okay, Donald Trump wins Arizona, right? We'll just keep going. Voters registered to a vacant lot, 2,000. Completed mail-in ballots received the day before the ballots were even mailed. They got 22,000 ballots back in Arizona before they had even mailed the ballots out. What? That's kind of bizarre, right? Okay, keep going. Down here, Maricopa County electronic adjudicated ballots, 103,000. Votes loaded before opening of polls. So the votes were even loaded. They were already in there before the polls even opened, 50,000. Okay, you see all that. Let's go to the next state here. I'm going to skip Georgia and come back to it. Let's go to Michigan. Michigan, dead voters, 17,367. And this is Michigan is kind of its own. We're going to talk about Michigan. It's very different than the other states, what went on there. So it's all grouped together, 615,000 votes that are just in question. And we're going to skip that part, okay? Let's go to the next one here, Nevada. Okay, here's Nevada. Illegal aliens that voted in this election, 4,000. Mail-in or absentee ballots for voters that were known to have voted in other states, 15,000. Clark County used signature verification, 1/2 the image quality that was suggested by the manufacturer, and to check the mail-in ballot signatures, 130,000. We'll just skip through that. Raffle tickets that they were incentivized, 500. Here we go. Here's a big one. Dead people who voted, 1,506. Non-Nevadans who voted in Nevada. They don't even live in Nevada. 19,218. Voters who double voted, 42,284. Okay, as you can see, they add up to over 200,000. Donald Trump lost by 34,000 votes. Okay, let's go to the next one, Pennsylvania. Mail-in votes that counted without a Republican observer. We all heard that stuff. It's well over 600,000. Mail-in ballots, 68. Here's another one too. We could almost you're going to hear a lot about this during this thing, but let's go down. Poll workers that voted with various errors in the bins. This is the one where you heard the fake ballots that were driven from New York to Pennsylvania. You'll hear a little about that in the show too. But we're going to go by Pennsylvania. You can all see it adds up to 866,000. Donald Trump lost by 68,000. And there'll be a point to all this I'm getting to. Okay, here's Wisconsin. Wisconsin, surge of identity combined voters in 2020. That would take a while to explain, but there was 130,000. U.S. Postal Service backdated ballots, 100,000. Okay, that's incredible if you actually look into it. The mail-in ballots entering the tabulation price under the guise of absentee ballots in clear violation of state law, 170,000. Okay, the margin of victory for Biden was 20,000 votes. Now we're going to go back to Georgia. Okay, everyone knows the president called the Secretary of State in Georgia, and on that call, he said he was listing these to the Secretary of State. He said, okay, you have felons with incomplete sentences that voted and cast their vote, 2,560. Underage children that registered to vote and illegally voted, 66,247. Unregistered voters who voted, 2,423. Registered voters who voted in another state after their Georgia registration date, 4,926. Voters who voted in Georgia and also voted in another state, 395. Voters who voted in Georgia but changed their address before the election to do it, 15,700. People who failed to pre-register to vote in their county in time after moving from one county to another, 40,279. Voters who illegally claimed a post office box as their resident, 1,043. Voters who registered too late to vote in the election, 98. People who died prior to the election, they were already dead, 10,315. Okay, ballots with no chain of custody. We'll probably talk a little bit about that in this show too, 600,000. And here's what the president said to the Secretary of State in Georgia. Can you just give us, why don't you just give us your date? It's only 10, he only lost by 11,730 votes. He said, how about you just give us your underage that voted and your dead people, and we win. It didn't make sense. You say, how about this? This line here, this people who failed to register, 40,000. Can you just give us them? He said, he named the columns, and you know what the Secretary of State of Georgia said? Those numbers are wrong. And the president said, well, who gave us the numbers? He asked his guy, and that guy said, we got them from the Secretary of State's office. And the president said to the Secretary of State, well, when can we get the right numbers? And the other guy said, sir, we've been trying to get him from the Secretary of State for almost 2 months. And the point being here, now here comes the point I'm making. This is all the second miracle of the election. Every one of these states should have been, and 2 plus 2 is 4, right? You should say, okay, you can't count dead people, you can't count underage people. Every one of these states, Donald Trump wins. If the electors would have done their job, the legislators, if the governors wouldn't have said, hey, it's good, all these things that happened, all these anomalies that happened, it would never happened before, but much less one state, they all say that, hey, we're going to go ahead and use this stuff, and we're going to declare Joe Biden the winner. But here's the big thing, the big miracle. If they would have done that, and said, you know what, we can't count these, Mr. Trump wins, Donald Trump wins, okay, then we wouldn't be where we're at right now. Because the biggest thing against humanity and our country is this attack through these machines. They got this opened up, this revealed the machines to where we're at right now. So what you're going to watch during this show is 100% proof that the big thing was the theft by these other countries that came in to attack our country through these machines that are made to steal elections. Every election going forward in history, if these things would have happened, these two, and we would have never known, every single vote you would have ever made wouldn't have mattered. Somebody else would have made that vote. And we've all seen in this past month, you think it wasn't communists coming in and taking this over with people here. This is an attack not only on those other countries with communism, but they had domestic traitors right here in our country. Whatever's going on right now, we're seeing it. They're suppressing cancel culture. They're trying to cancel us all out. I just seen churches, the Christian churches, they're being attacked right now. People on social media, anyone that speaks up, they're going, you can't say that, you're gone. It's like right now they're doing whack-a-mole because they knew they were so close that we would never know in history what happened. But guess what? Now we do know, and you're all going to know. And when you watch this and you get through it, at the end, I'm going to tell you what you can all do. And we're going to start our show right now, and you guys are going to be absolutely amazed. And now we have with us Colonel Phil Waldron.
Yeah, so my background in the military is with influence operations, information operations, information warfare, if you will.
What we're talking about here today is specific, these machines that were used to hack into our election and by foreign countries, including China. And what did you kind of bring us up through the election for yourself, and then how you've gotten so involved right now?
Yeah, we began looking, working with our partners in Dallas at Allied Security Operations Group, with doing some analysis on the data that they had, looking at not only Dominion, but ES&S and HART, several of the other electronic voting management systems. And we saw a lot of similarities and vulnerabilities in the systems that would be easily influenceable or easily interdicted. And again, as an information warfare officer, that's what I did. I looked for vulnerabilities and ways to attack systems to create a strategic advantage for U.S. friendly forces. And so when we started seeing the vulnerabilities and all the different ways that you could interdict these electronic voting systems, it became apparent that we had a problem for the November 3rd election. And that prompted us to spend a lot of time working with Russ Ramsland, getting a lot of the historical data, the knowledge. We started working on our own, really doing a lot of connecting the money exercises, doing basic investigative research. And then I brought in our local DHS team here in Texas, both the Intelligence and Assessments Division, which collects intelligence for the Department of Homeland Security, mm-hmm. and the CISA, our local CISA rep. And we spent quite a bit of time giving them an introduction to what we saw and the vulnerabilities and the ways that these systems could be interdicted to change election outcomes at the machine level, the server level, fraud at the local level, which is required to induce the illegitimate ballots,
Right.
Then you've got the machine level, which is kind of what you were talking about, the algorithms that are directly input into the tabulators, and we have evidence of that in Ware County, Georgia, that X amount of ballots went through, and they basically stole 13% of the vote from President Trump and put that 13% of the vote into the category for former Vice President Biden, which made a 26% shift in the vote. And so when you look at the machine level, the machine for Dominion or ES&S, there are so many vulnerabilities in the systems. There are so many fundamental cybersecurity practices that are not enabled that it basically allows anybody who has some technical ability and the want to go and influence our elections.
Wow.
And sort of that strategic level is foreign intelligence services, and we've got pretty much documented of Communist Chinese Party ownership of the private equity firm whose board controls Dominion. We've got Chinese communists, the president of the Chinese Communist Bank, who is a board of directors member of the private equity firm that owns Dominion.
Wow.
And then if you look at the testing company, the only company that has the access to the code and the testing for Dominion is in Shenzhen, China. It's a Communist Chinese Party company. The U.S. government, the state governments, the county governments, they don't have access to Dominion code. But I think it's kind of unique that a Chinese company that's run by the CCP does have access to the code. And that's why we started seeing at that strategic level, or that third tier of election manipulation, a lot of movements of votes, direct access to Pennsylvania voting precincts, county tabulation centers, Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, all of that coming in directly from foreign countries, China being the predominant one, and through Pakistani ISI proxies.
Did you find it very frustrating not being able to get all this information out to the public?
Yeah, it's very frustrating. The fact that everyone says that, well, there was all these court cases and all the court cases were lost. Well, that's a lie. I mean, we've got statistics on how many court cases were open, how many were dismissed for standing or procedural. But there's only, to my knowledge, 2 cases, one in Michigan and one in Georgia, where evidence has been heard, and those cases are progressing forward. The Senate in Arizona has heard and seen preliminary evidence, and they've issued a subpoena, and they're pressing forward with a full forensic audit in Arizona, and that could be forthcoming as early as this coming week. Right. So it is complex, and it's hard for people to understand. And if it's hard to understand, people just dismiss it as right. Conspiracy theory, right. Where it's cyber warfare and unconventional asymmetric warfare conducted by a peer threat nation state against the United States government critical infrastructure.
The whole country seen when they shut everything down at night that was a deviation. You probably expected this, right?
We were watching. We found the foreign servers in Barcelona and the UK and in Frankfurt. We'd seen several, the one in Toronto, obviously, with Dominion.
So 100% proof that the servers are overseas in other people's countries for our election?
Yes, we were mapping out the servers before the elections. We identified the Seidel server in Frankfurt down to the street address. Frankfurt has, I think it's either the largest or one of the world's largest server nodes, a cyber node, a communications node. It's called DE for Germany, DE-NIX. Right. And there were several folks watching the traffic and the volume of traffic that night, and they noticed a significant spike in traffic that night just due to the volume of information going through. And one of the reasons that they said that the traffic was going up was due to the U.S. elections.
In your opinion, this is an attack by other countries, of foreign countries, is what you're saying then?
I believe, from what I've seen in the witnesses that I've talked to, that this is a coup that it definitely involved elements inside our own country and inside our own federal government. definitely part of a coup that was aided and abetted by a foreign threat nation state, a peer enemy nation state,
Right.
China.
Do you believe that this attack from other countries could not have happened without people here, domestic traders, basically?
Yeah, I believe that. Again, we have affidavits of CIA and State Department personnel out of the Italian embassy participating in this coup. We have a name, email, and phone number of a senior DOJ official from a U.S. attorney that said that this individual was shutting down any DOJ or FBI investigation into any election-related investigation, and trying to shut down judicial cases, court cases. So from inside our own DOJ, people were shutting down active investigations. You wonder why, Mr. Barr didn't find or see any evidence of widespread election fraud. Is because the FBI never did anything other than to impede investigations into election fraud. The FBI went to question the truck drivers who delivered ballots and created affidavits. They were harassing, the Americans, the patriotic Americans who were whistleblowers,
right,
and prosecuting them. Like you mentioned something earlier, is the machines, ES&S and Dominion machines. If you look at military planning factors, they're critical capabilities. A capability is what you have to execute your mission, or the enemy has to execute its mission successfully. So a critical capability for any of this to happen are the inherent vulnerabilities that were built into ES&S and Dominion software, which is, we've proven through our work that this is all related directly back to the Smartmatic, SGO Smartmatic software core.
Wow.
And they definitely have financial gains to financial reasons based on some of the other investments that they've made,
right,
especially if they, looking down the road, if they make billions and billions of dollars, the board of SGO Smartmatic, because they own an air purification company. So just think about it. If you get to pick an administration that is favorable to your company, say they pass a Green New Deal, and you're going to make billions and billions of dollars off of government mandated air purification systems and public buildings and apartment buildings and industrial complexes, you would spend quite a bit of money on the front side to make sure the election was done. The same thing with China. If China could avoid the U.S. coming to Taiwan's defense, and we've seen indications of that already, and if China could avoid having to fight a campaign to protect their man-made islands, to extend their territorial waters into international navigable waterways, if they could invest $1 billion to do that versus fighting a war, well, they've made a pretty good investment. And
right,
all the money that they've made into the Biden family, all the money that they've made and invested into U.S. universities and U.S. businesses, buying up our medical and our technical intellectual property, stealing a lot more than they bought. They are fighting a war, and people just don't realize that we're under attack.
So now we have with us Russell Ramsland. He's a founding member of Allied Security Operational Group. They're based in Dallas, Texas, and they do cyber forensics and security. Russell, how are you involved with all this this election fraud with these machines?
Well, it was interesting, Mike. It's been a long road for us. About 2 years ago, we had some logs from the Dallas general election brought to us from the central tabulation server. And people ask, what do these logs mean? It was about 1,100 pages. And we got looking at them, and we were horrified at what we found. Because what we found was that people were getting into the system and they were changing the votes. They were erasing databases, they were reloading them, and it was coming from remote locations. And our guys were going, this can't be.
Now this is in 2018 so these guys came to you with these, and these were voting machines, and were they Dominion machines?
No. We use ES&S in Dallas, not Dominion.
So are they similar machines?
Yes, yeah, it's very similar stuff. Most of these voting companies all have similar DNA in
Okay.
their original
Okay,
software.
but what you've seen was it horrified you.
Yeah, it did
Okay.
because clearly somebody was playing with the election.
Wow.
So we tried to get the authorities alerted. We brought in a DOJ prosecutor that ran the cyber group in North Texas, and she was horrified at what we showed her. And she asked us to put it together and eventually submit it to the FBI, and we did that, and they did nothing. So we continued to investigate, and the more we found, the more horrifying it got. Now, this all was still coming out of Dallas. We tried to get senators to look at this, and we tried to get state officials to look at this, but we continued to work on it on our own. We had no client at all. And eventually, we did get 7 members of the Freedom Caucus this last July to take a 2-hour briefing without staff. And what they saw was absolute proof that this electronic voting system that we have is completely compromised. It can be completely manipulated. And they were horrified.
We've all heard that Texas denied these machines.
Well, Texas denied Dominion, but Texas uses other voting machines. We use HART and we use ES&S in Texas.
Right.
Same.
So why would Texas, they denied these Dominion ones, and in your opinion, so they must have looked at them and said, there's something there we don't like, but then they over here with Smartmatic and these other ones, they were okay with that? What would be your opinion of why they would deny one machine that because they're afraid of election fraud, and over here they accepted that one?
I think that it sometimes has more to do with politics and influence, who gets through and who doesn't, than necessarily the machines.
Okay.
So we finally ended up with some investigators with Ron Johnson's Department of Homeland Security Oversight Group, and they were horrified at what we showed them, and they tried to get CISA, which is the Cyber Intelligence Security Administration inside the DHS. They tried to get CISA to take a look. CISA would not take the briefing. They couldn't be less interested. So we didn't quite know what to do. We were beginning to find some media people who wanted to start talking about this, and they became appalled. But the break really came in early August when we got some DHS people in Austin with the INA division, the Intelligence and Analysis division down there, to take a look at what we had. And that's the division that used to have voter integrity before it was handed to CISA. So they looked at it and they were horrified, and they sent a whole team to our shop. We spent 11 hours with them. They asked us if we would give them our data. We said, of course. And so we gave them all our data. They took it back to Austin, and unknown to us, they gave it to 3 private cyber groups that they use, and said, hey, are these guys crazy? I mean, is this nuts, or is there something here? Well, all 3 groups looked at it, and all 3 groups came back. Not only is it right, it's horrifying.
Okay, I want to ask you there, when you say horrified, can you explain to everybody watching this right now, what horrified you? Was it the fact they could go online?
Well, there's no effective security at all for your votes. Your votes are stored overseas where they can be easily...
Wait a minute. They're stored overseas?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
27 states use what's called Clarity Cital election night reporting, and those servers are overseas. They have what are called S3 bucket vulnerabilities, and people can get in and change the votes there. And then they can load them all the way back down to the county level here in this country, because Cital gets all the credentials from every single county server here. And so they can get into every single county server and change the votes here from overseas. It's crazy.
So everything that everybody's been talking about out there that they've tried to suppress, saying that we heard that machines weren't even online. And you're saying that 27 states use this, and the servers are overseas, so these can go over there and they can change the vote to anything they want and send it back cyberly, by cyber.
Correct.
Wow.
So they became, the DHS people in Austin realized what we were telling them was correct. They became horrified, and they began to try to have a series of classified briefings within their own group in order to push this up the chain. And they got about 1 or 2 levels up, and then they met a solid wall of resistance that basically said, leave it alone, don't pursue it.
Wow. And what do you think being now we're here telling the facts on the show here, but in your mind, why would they do that? What, this is just subjectively, why would they do that in your mind?
I don't know, Mike.
You can't explain it. I mean, this is okay. So take us from there. So this is like what approximately when was that when it got stopped?
That was September.
Wow. Getting close to the election. Okay.
Close to the election. So what actually happened in this election, this stolen election, we already knew was going to happen. We already had seen it. We knew it was all possible. We knew it was all out there. Now, we didn't know how many foreign servers. Before, we weren't seeing very many foreign servers come in and change votes. But in this election, of course, we saw thousands from all over the world.
You've seen thousands. All right, you've seen all these hacks. Have you actually seen that with your own eyes?
We have seen the data that is
Right.
supposedly representative of that.
So the election goes down. You knew it was going to happen. Is it exactly what you thought was going to happen?
Yeah, we thought it was going to happen on 3 levels. We thought there would be massive local cheating. We thought there would be cheating through the actual voting companies themselves, whether it's them or someone else manipulating them. And we thought that there would be cheating from votes being injected from overseas. And that's exactly what we saw happen.
Wow.
And we developed tons of absolute proof on this, but no court case was ever allowed it to be presented. So that sort of gave fodder to this media myth that it didn't exist. But it does exist. It's out there. It's unbelievable. It's massive.
Wow, did everybody hear that, what Russell's saying here? This is what everyone says. Well, there was no evidence. So you're saying no judges would look at the evidence. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And now we don't know why. I mean, it wasn't because there wasn't evidence. They didn't even want to look at it. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Now we've heard about, in fact, on this show, the Antrim County in Michigan. Weren't you guys contacted to look into that?
That was our work. Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I actually signed the forensic audit report, and because our guys did all that, are part of our team, and that came about because there was a down ballot race, and the judge allowed some limited discovery. What came out of that was appalling enough that he allowed further discovery. And then, of course, that report went national because what we found was so horrifying.
Right. For everybody out there, what we've all heard, this Antrim County in Michigan, and in this show here, you've seen it. This is the reason it was talked about so much, because this is a small county, and it was like 15,000 some people voted, and it was 7,000 some votes flipped. I mean, so it was so obvious. You had 65% Republican and 35% Democrat normally, and it was completely flipped. So everybody in the town knew it was a deviation that didn't make sense. And so Russell, this case is still open. That's correct, right?
That is correct.
Okay, can I ask you this? So what you've seen there is exactly what you knew was going to happen. And now, were you able to look at other places? What was different about Antrim County? Now, what we all heard was you were able to get into the forensics of it and see all this. Have you been able to do that in any other places in the United States since then, or since this election ended on in November?
Actually, on a limited basis, we have been able to go into 2 other counties. We have not published that information yet, and there are reasons why we aren't publishing that information right now. But both of them have not only confirmed, they have confirmed that it's even worse than in Antrim.
Okay, did everybody hear that? What we have here, and Russell can't disclose this because every time something pops up, it gets buried out there. Things happen. I don't, this is the most attack